topic of the day, which is the climate change risks and net zero action. Chin, over to you.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you for the introduction of ERM. We will deep dive into climate change and also net zero as today is our topic. We will go through the key drivers. What are the climate action today? Yeah, and the trend nowadays. Talk about net zero scenario, followed by what are the net zero standards and concepts that are available as of now, and net zero approach and the roadmap going forward, right? Before I end, I will also share some case studies. Yeah, what is the current practices and also future, right? What are the oil and gas sectors companies are looking at? And also followed by question and answer session that will be facilitated by Jane later on, right? So without further ado, you can contact Jane or myself. And with that, I will end my sharing and presentation. I pass back to Jane to see open up for question and answer session. Back to you, Jane.
Thank you, Chin. Thank you. This is really insightful, a lot of knowledge sharing. I feel like maybe I've gone through a crash course on climate change risks. From I was putting down my notes from the climate risk, how it impacts us, the call for action, the urgency for not just companies doing it for the sake of the pledges, but really a sense of urgency for humanity, for every one of us to take action, because it is not just about the way that we do business, but it's also about the way that we live and for our future generations as well. So the urgency call for actions, what is net zero versus what is carbon neutral? I think a lot of people are quite confused, and I think you have given a very clear guidance and sharing on clearly, net zero, net neutral is not exactly the same, and how we can learn to apply it. And then moving on to all the standards that we can follow, the step-by-step recommendations, public disclosure, how in the future we can do business in terms of declaring our carbon footprint and allowing our business to continue to be successful and to move on with the net zero economy. I'm hearing newer terms, not just low carbon economy, but net zero economy in the future. I would imagine in the future, life is just going to be quite different from where we are now, where we're doing a lot of oil and gas projects in the engineering companies, but maybe in the future more electrical projects, the renewables, and how we can collaborate as well together to achieve in a better economy and in the future, and also for the business to continue to strive. So thank you very much. I would there's not much time left, but I would love to hear questions, and I have seen 2 questions here already, or a few questions here already.
Three questions.
3, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Shama, you saw it.
Questions, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me.
Okay, the first question.
One by one, or how do you read? Yeah, I can read. I can read from the chat box. Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 1 is from IR Rashid. Yeah, Encik Rashid. Yeah, it appears that there is no one universally accepted standard for corporate net zero target. Is there a lot of confusion? Yes, there are a lot of confusion nowadays in the market, and therefore, right, there is a need for us to go back to certain board to actually verify our projects. For example, I have ABC project, which is can reduce 1,000 tons of or 10,000 tons of CO2 equivalent per year or per month. So how accurate and how do I be able to claim that, right? There needs to be a certain verification on that. So as of now, a lot of this still voluntary. So which standard, which guideline we want to take on is up to us. Is up to us. But for the oil and gas industry, I believe that you are in the forefront. We are in the forefront, and there are a lot of pressure from stakeholders and investors. Even in some of the more advanced European countries, court already make verdict, yeah, and cannot run away from that. So therefore, yeah, whether it's voluntary or mandated, regulated. So in our Malaysian environment, we still call it voluntary at this moment. Therefore, yeah, to answer directly on your question, Encik Rashid, yes, there are a lot of confusion. Therefore, there need certification body, that needs certain verification before we actually can shout out that I can reduce how much and how much, or remove how much and how much from the atmosphere. Yeah, hope I have answered your question. And may I move on to question number 2? Yeah.
Yes.
How many companies have committed to net zero target through the business ambition of for 1.5 degrees Celsius, right? In this campaign for now, I think worldwide there are more than 400 companies right now. Yeah, and increasing. The momentum has increased a lot after COP26 November last year, right? So this is something that is very encouraging. But relatively, like what I have mentioned in my sharing just now, we are below. We still need a lot of action from the society, from the globe. Right, the action that we have taken is not enough. It's not fast enough to combat the climate impact that we have seen today. Right? Yeah.
I think the third question's from Azdin, a bit long. Maybe I can read it so that you can digest a bit. Yeah. So she was saying every barrel of oil and gas equivalent has a carbon overhead due to energy consumed in production, gas flaring, and leakage or venting from oil and gas infrastructure. So with a focus on reducing CO2 footprint, what is the technology or digital solution used by ERM to measure these emissions?
Okay, to answer directly, we cannot just measure the emission, right? Emission is the last resort, right? So from the process of Charlie Gully, from in the oil rig itself, when we produce every molecule of oil, right, we need to link to how much of dollar and cents of carbon emission are related in terms of, let's say, whether you are using carbon internal pricing or the European price or EU price for CO2 and so on. So we are in a way that wanted to relate to molecule of oil, each molecule of oil to the carbon emission, like how much CO2 emission for each molecule of oil, and ultimately link that to monetary value. So this is what a lot of companies are doing right now. So with that, right, every steps will count, right, from the middle of the sea during oil rig processes, they channel back to the processing plant, yeah, from upstream to downstream. Sorry, the word is from upstream to downstream to distribution. Yeah, every process itself will need to be included. That's why scope 3 is very important, not to just measure scope 1, scope 2. A lot of us just do not know what to do after scope 2 is being established, the GHG scope 2 emission. So we need to actually advance into scope 3. Even scope 3, we are selecting certain categories that are material to us, right? So we need to actually look into that in terms of this measurement. So what I have not answered your question directly. You were asking what is the technology or digital solutions. We certainly need to advance into a lot of, we say advanced technology, right? So whether digital, we are talking about AI nowadays, BI, a lot of these terms are already in the market. So we need to be more intelligent, linking all the available technology to our system itself. Yeah, for example, we have a system that has multiple pumps running together, right? How are we, first of all, you talk about energy reduction, and then from energy reduction, right, which one is to alternate? Can we actually optimize the operation more and so on? If we are to manually jot down the input, output, and so on, there will be a lot of work for us. We can attach those automated type of advanced technology to it. May it be software or hardware that was created by human ourselves, right? Is already available in the market, right? Specifically for oil and gas industry, I always mention that we are in the forefront, and therefore we are being exposed to more advanced, more opportunity for us to actually adapt that. There are market into it because there are continuous demand for us to actually look into improvement.
Yeah. Maybe, Chin, I could elaborate that part of it is also software. And if you talk about ERM, we do have a digital team with implementation, helping clients in terms of implementing the different software, not just internally, but outside in the industry available for processing plant, connecting it to their DCS or their monitoring system, where they can actually link it up to have a real-time emissions or real-time measurements based on the instrument within the processes from the pressure and temperature instruments that they can actually measure as well. That will be a bit more detailed in terms of the technology, but it does exist out there.
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
We do have another. I am doing a bit on personal capacity to reduce CO2 emission. Hope will help the initiative too. Yes, of course. And that is Faridon. Yeah. What is that you're sharing? I cannot see. Properly.
Yeah, every bit counts, right? Every bit counts.
Yeah.
She's sharing her daily
carbon
daily measurement. Yeah. So that's very good. Yeah, a lot of us, I mean, we have a lot of apps that are available, can use download on our handphone and just measure. Yeah, and set our own target from day to day, or if not month to month. Yeah. Yeah, there is another question from Encik Rashid. Will net zero targets direct MOGEC members to more business or collaboration opportunities? Certainly, yeah. Look into. I know time. Yeah. I will be very quickly. Yes, a lot of companies are looking into hydrogen, blue hydrogen, green hydrogen, renewable energy in terms of, let's say, solar. This is the most, low-hanging fruit that a lot of oil and gas company can actually advance into or align our service to this, because our bigger or national or international scale of company, oil and gas company, are already into it. So therefore, we need to combat and react by having more type of services that relates to this RE, renewable energy, climate action 100+, right?
Okay, thank you, Chin. I think time is up. I pass it back to Kasma.
Right, thank you, Chi. Thank you, Jay. Thank you for all the questions. Now, like to call upon technologies MOGEC Vice President Technologies Sharifah Zaida to give a closing remark.
Thank you, Shama.
Thank you.
What can I say? That was truly, I felt as though I've been bombarded with a lot of information and trying to absorb it at the same time. Wow, that was fantastic, Ms. Chin. I think Jayin has actually summarized the whole presentation quite well, but I'd like to just take it up to the sort of a layman term in terms of climate change in Malaysia is real, or climate change risk is real. I think in the last few years, when people talk about climate change, Malaysians will say, what is that? We don't feel it. But now you can see the flood. You can see, I know you were saying earthquake is not due to climate change, but you can actually feel earthquake in Malaysia and in a very high scale. And on top of that, we actually feel the temperature in Malaysia has become cooler. Sometimes you go to sleep without aircon and fan. That's a no in the last 5 years. So climate change risk is real, and it's something that we need to be aware of. I know the companies in Malaysia, in the oil and gas, the OGSE industry in Malaysia, they are they are struggling with sustainability of their businesses, survivability of their businesses, but ESG or climate change risk, or the transition into the net carbon economy, net zero carbon economy is very real, although it's not here now, but you have to go there. And you can hear from the presentation from Ms. Chin, the transition to the net zero carbon is actually a journey. It takes a lot of steps, and you need to understand a lot of things whilst you're going towards that. You cannot achieve it in one day, and it's good to start now. As an engineer, we like systematic approaches. A few years back, you really don't know how to go there from here, and I'm glad to hear that. I'm quite happy to see that there's quite a systematic approach towards it. Now, having seen that flow, doesn't mean that the steps that's taken is as easy as it sounds. I was involved in a task force to measure thermal efficiency a few years ago, and I can tell you, after like 1 year of discussion, I don't think we got anywhere. So scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 are not easy steps. It's easy to sound, it's easy to say, but to actually achieve it, I can see Ms. Chin was explaining about, from downstream to upstream for scope 3. Most of the companies are still struggling. I hear in their conversation are still struggling just to chart the path towards scope 3. So I think at the end of the day, Ms. Chin have shared some success stories. So the good thing about success stories for companies is that it's possible to do. There is a way that we can do it. It's just that we probably need to have more companies to go towards that path and to understand how to do it. Now, the steps were given. We can do it ourselves, or we can actually hire ERM to do it for us. So that's that's a choice that you can make when you're serious about transitioning, or when the company have to transition into that. So the urgency call for action, as Jane has mentioned, is real. We need to be responsible for the world that we leave behind for our children. And although we have to balance between business requirement, and in Malaysia we talk about energy trilemma versus renewable that we don't have, but we have to have that concerted effort that something has to be done, and this is real. And with that, I think I pass it back to Shama.